All right. So, as the rest of the internet stands here and delivers news about QDs or QAnon or wildfires or whatever retarded nonsense that y'all are going to talk about, I'm going to do my fucking job. Right? Legit. My job is to bring y'all the news. And sometimes when I find a story, I feel when a country with 1.5 billion people are fighting a country with 1.3 billion people, it might be something we all need to might pay attention to. I think that might be important. I'm just spitballing here, but I feel like if these two countries clash in a war that really matters, you might have a real issue. So with that being said, here's this news article from Al Jazeera. India pushes supply to disputed China border ahead of winter. In recent months, New Delhi has brought vast quantities of ammunition, equipment, fuel, and food into the Ladakh region. All right, so let's check this out and what's going on. India's military has activated its entire logistics network to transport supplies to thousands of troops ahead of a harsh winter along a bitterly disputed Himalayan border with China, as New Delhi blamed Beijing for the worst border standoff in decades. In recent months, one of India's biggest military logistics exercises in years has brought vast quantities of ammunition, equipment, fuel, winter supplies, and food into Ladakh, a region bordering Tibet that India administers, officials said. The move was triggered by a border dispute with China that began in May and escalated in June into hand-to-hand combat. 20 Indian soldiers were killed while China suffered an undisclosed number of casualties. I don't actually know how many that was, so we're not going to speculate. That tends to be how it works. On Tuesday, India's defense minister, Rajnath Singh, accused China of violating past border agreements and expanding its troop deployments along the disputed mountainous frontier in Ladakh region, which carved out Indian-administered Kashmir last August. Singh told Parliament that India has informed China through diplomatic channels that its attempts to unilaterally alter the status quo were in violation of the bilateral agreements. He has also said India has made counter deployments along the rugged frontiers, and its troops have foiled transgression attempts by China. I apologize, I've been drinking, man. Legit, I had like a half a bottle of vodka and a bunch of beer. I'm okay right now. Both countries are negotiating to resolve the confrontation, but neither side has backed down. Indian military is now set up to keep troops deployed along the treacherous high-altitude border through the winter. Eastern Ladakh, where the flare-up has occurred, is typically manned by 20,000 to 30,000 soldiers, but the deployment has more than doubled with the tensions, a military official said, declining to provide exact numbers. Now, look, all right, I've been explaining to y'all, for a couple of months now what exactly is going on in China. China is scared shitless that the United States is going to stop defending its trade routes. And if it does so, it's going to have to go through Indian waters in order to go get the fuel that it needs to be able to run its country. This is something that, we as Americans don't really care about, but on the same point, it's most definitely going to be a great fireworks show. We have mirrored the increase in Chinese troops, the official said, adding the Indian military was well prepared, but did not want further escalation or a prolonged conflict. Temperatures in Ladakh can fall well below freezing, and troops are often deployed at altitudes of more than 15,000 feet, where oxygen is scarce, officials said. Since snow blocks the mountain passes into the Ladakh at least 4 months every year, Indian military planners have already moved more than 150,000 tons of materials into the region. All the supplies we need to have are already been pushed into wherever they are required, said Major General Arvind Kapoor, Chief of Staff of the Indian Army 14th Corps. On Tuesday morning, a succession of the Indian Air Force's large transport aircraft landed at a forward base in Ladakh carrying men and materials as fighter jets roared overhead. Soldiers with backpacks streamed out were checked for COVID-19 symptoms at a transit facility where they have awaited further transport. The materials are stored across the network's logistics hubs at a fuel, oil, and lubricant depot near Leh, Ladakh's main city. A hillside was covered with clusters of green drums. At storage facilities at a nearby supply depot, books and stacks of rations, including pistachios, instant noodles, and Indian curries, stood in tall piles. At another base near lay tents, heaters, winter's clothing, and high-altitude equipment lay stacked. From those depots, the militaries are pushing the logistics nodes by trucks, helicopters, and some particularly difficult parts, mules, officials said. Yeah, man, like India is not a very, what's the word I'm looking for here? Traversable country as far as shit's concerned. Right. In a place like Ladakh, operations logistics is of huge importance, said Kapoor. In the last 20 years, we have mastered it. Well, man, Machiavelli wrote about it in 1520. You know what I mean? That's why it is I started breaking down that book. Speaking in Parliament, Singh also said that New Delhi has doubled the budget for vital roads and bridges along the unmarcated border with China in recent years in response to Beijing's rapid infrastructure development on its side. The defense minister told Parliament that China had been building up its infrastructure in the remote mountains for decades, and the government was trying to close the gap. Our government, too, has stepped up the budget for border infrastructure development to about double the previous levels. As a result, more roads and bridges have been completed in the border areas, he said. He provided no figure. India's recent construction of roads and airfields near the borders in the Ladakh region have provided tensions, the Chinese has said. Military officials say the infrastructure development on both sides of the border has also helped troops mobilize quickly in large numbers and in close proximity at some points in the Ladakh area. Singh said Indian and Chinese troops have had face-off on the unsettled border in the past, but the scale of deployment of troops in the number of disputed areas was much larger than in the past. As of now, the Chinese side has mobilized a large number of troops and armaments along the LAC as well as the depth areas, he said, listing Gogra, Kongrala, and north-south banks of the Pangong Lake as the friction points. So, with that being said, right, understand, as the U.S. pulls away from giving a fuck what happens to all this stuff, right? And that's really what this is. This is the United States going, we don't really care. Do what you do. You're going to see more and more of these border tensions between countries flare up throughout the world. I just want y'all to know about them and be prepared and understand what's going on. Understand that wars are going to be going on and we're not going to be involved in them, and there's good reason for it. And we should continue to not be involved in wars that really don't benefit us in any major way. In the meantime, you know the situation. I'm Tom Peace from Pnoid News. And like, share, and subscribe. Peace be like one. Later.